Most people think that retirement requires 1 million, 2 million, maybe even more. That's what the calculators say. That's what your financial advisor says. That's what Wall Street wants you to believe. But what if I told you that number is completely made up? What if the real number that determines your freedom isn't on your 401k statement, but in your monthly budget instead? In this video, I'm going to show you the only number that actually matters to retire early and how you can hit it without grinding for 40 years or even saving millions of dollars. Let's break the myth and finally give you the math that leads to the freedom that you desire. Hey there, my friends. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and this is the Wealth Outside of Wall Street YouTube channel, where we help you take control over your money and build real financial freedom in 10 years or less. We don't follow the herd. We don't play the Wall Street game. We build income-producing assets that give us freedom today, not someday. So if you're done waiting for retirement to maybe happen decades from now, subscribe and share this video with someone that needs a wake-up call just like you. So let's get into it. You've probably heard this before. To retire comfortably, you're going to need at least $1 million. But here's the thing about that number. That number is based completely on assumptions of accumulation. That you're going to live a long time, that you're going to safely withdraw 4% a year to make sure you never run out of money, and that you're okay with watching your retirement account balance slowly shrink down to nothing over time. The $1 million target is about survival. It's not about freedom. But there's a better way to measure your retirement readiness, and it's not based on how much money you've saved. It's based on how much income your assets can produce. Because your life, it's not funded by net worth, it's funded by monthly spendable income. And when your passive income covers your essential expenses, my friends, you're absolutely free. You have more options and more control over your time. You can start to say yes to unique opportunities and probably more importantly, no to the things that don't fit your values. That's the number that matters. That's what we call a strike number. Your strike number is the monthly income that you need to walk away from work and still meet your basic financial needs. Things like food, shelter, utilities, transportation, all the things that cause peace of mind. Now, let me be clear. It's not your dream lifestyle. It's your freedom baseline. Because here's what most people don't realize. You just need enough passive income to not depend on your job. That's the number that gives you choice. And at the end of the day, that's really what freedom is all about. It's having more control over your time and more options with the time that you have. And your strike number is the first milestone to hit on the path towards complete financial freedom. For me, I had this very same breakthrough, and that breakthrough, it didn't come from a spreadsheet. It came from a phone call instead. I got a phone call from my wife telling me that my oldest son at the time was going to need emergency open heart surgery. And the crazy part about this, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even present when he needed me the most. You see, I had been trading my time, my effort, my energy, climbing the corporate ladder, trying to make more, save more, and hopefully be able to retire one day. Every promotion I took, it gave me a little bit more income so I could save a little bit more. But you know how that goes. It came with more trade-offs as well. I started chasing bonuses, promotions, and retirement, it still seems like such a long time away. And I realized two things in a very short order. In 2008, I lost almost everything I had saved for the previous 5 years. My account balances went down by almost 80%. Now, I quickly jumped on a plane and I came back home and I spent the next couple of weeks with my family. I watched my son go through heart surgery and fortunately recover, but I also had an opportunity to feel like I was given a second chance to be his father. And not to be his father on the road, but to be present with him. And I started searching for ways that I could take more control over my financial plan, my results. And I found a couple of books. Now, book number one that I found was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he opened me up to the possibility that everything I had been doing up to that point was wrong. In fact, one of the things that Robert Kiyosaki says in his book is savers are losers. Now, I've come to find out that he's not talking about saving money for retirement. He's talking about where and how most people save their money for retirement. The exact things I was doing at that time. I was putting my money in accounts I had no control over that caused me to have a lot of money saved up to ever be able to retire. And I had learned the consequences the hard way in 2008 that I had no control over the outcome. Now, just because I knew that everything I was doing was wrong didn't mean I knew what to do that was right. Shortly after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I picked up Robert Allen's book called Creating Wealth, and it had a very simple strategy in this book. He said that you could retire in 10 years, not 40, by simply buying 2 single-family homes every single year for the next 10 years. Now, I don't know about you, but that felt like a doable plan. something I could get my arms around and understand, buying 2 simple single-family homes every single year. And what Robert Allen shared in his book is the income that those single-family homes can produce after 10 years will set you free for life. Now, I didn't know all of the tactics, I didn't know all of the strategies, I didn't know all of the things to do, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I believed that that was possible for me. I made a vow to stop traveling, stop climbing the corporate ladder, and simply redirect my energy and focus on buying 2 single-family homes every single year. Now, I'm a pretty goal-driven individual, and so rather than just buying 2, I actually bought 17 properties over the next 4.5 years. And I'll never forget what happened 4.5 years later. You see, I had stopped traveling, I had stopped pursuing promotions, I had stopped trying to do all of the things to make my bosses happy, but I did my job really, really well, so I could do it and then go home and spend time with my family. Now, 4.5 years later, companies after 2008, they were still kind of tightening their belts. And I remember my boss, Rob, walked into my office 4.5 years later and said, "Ryan, you're going to be taking a promotion." Now, he disguised what I was going to do under the guise of a promotion. Yes, they were going to pay me a little bit more money, but he was sending me back out on the road. Now, I had made a vow in that hospital with my son as he was recovering from heart surgery that I would never trade what mattered most again. I would not travel again. I would not put my family on the line so I could pursue corporate wealth. And when Rob told me that I was going to be going back out on the road, in the back of my mind, as he was telling me about all of the benefits, all of the money that I would earn, all of the commissions I could potentially earn by going back out on the road, in the back of my mind, I was adding up all of the numbers. You see, I had bought 17 properties over the last 4.5 years, and they were delivering little teeny checks to me every single month. And what I was doing in my mind was I was adding up all of the rent that I had been collecting over the previous months with all of those rental properties. I added up what my mortgage payment was and the rent checks that would cover my mortgage payment. Then I added up what my car payment was and the insurance and the rent checks that could cover that. Then I added up my monthly food budget and the rent checks that were coming in that could cover that. I was adding up my monthly minimum spend and ensuring that I had enough rental income coming in to cover those expenses. And I'll never forget what happened next. As Rob was telling me about this promotion, he said, "Ryan, are you ready to do it?" And without even thinking, I said, "Rob, I quit."
I quit.
What? Michael.
You have no idea how high I can fly.
Now, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I wanted to shove them back in. I didn't go into work that day with the intention of quitting my job. But when Rob told me what was going to be required to continue to maintain my job, I realized I wasn't willing to do it, and I had the option to say no. That's what a strike number is, my friends. My friends, that was my first taste of real freedom. Now, that wasn't the complete financial freedom of being able to travel lavishly and live the highest lifestyle, but for the very first time in my life, I realized I had income coming from my assets that was tax-free, that was under my control, that allowed me to say no to things that I did not want to pursue and start to open up a doorway of opportunities of the things I might want to pursue instead. This was my first taste of freedom, and I want you to have it too. So how do you find your strike number? Well, there's a very simple formula. You're going to start with your current monthly income, then you're going to subtract taxes, investment contributions, work-related costs like commuting, childcare, wardrobe, dining out, all of those things. In fact, some estimates say that people spend $30,000 a year on expenses all related to the opportunity of working. Then you're going to subtract any non-essential spending. What's left is your essential expenses, your survival budget. Let's say you make $10,000 a month. If you subtract taxes of about $2,000 a month and savings of about $1,500 a month and job-related costs, and we'll make these kind of low, of only $500 a month, that's $4,000 that even though you're technically earning, you're not actually keeping. It's not hitting your bank account. It's not money that you're ever actually spending. You're making it gross, but after those expenses, what you have in your net bank account is $6,000 a month to cover your baseline. That, my friends, is your strike number. That's the minimum amount of monthly spend you need to maintain a semblance of your current lifestyle. So now the opportunity for you is, can you build an asset base that delivers $6,000 a month in passive income? Because if you do, You are free. You have options and you have choice. Now, you're probably not retiring on a beach sipping margaritas for the rest of your life, but you're free to choose what you do with your time. Here's the problem with traditional financial plans. They lock up your money until you're old enough to maybe enjoy it for a couple of years. In fact, in a traditional financial plan, you can't touch your money until the age of 59 and a half without penalties. There's no cash flow now. You have to wait all the way until your 60s with your fingers crossed, hoping that you have enough to retire. And the worst part about it is you defer all of your taxes, meaning your biggest expense you're shifting to the future. So what that means, if you want to take a sabbatical, change careers, or just have some breathing room in your 40s, you can't. Your money is in financial prison. That's why we focus on assets that create income now versus income tomorrow. The way we do this is rather than putting money in 401ks, just like Robert Allen talked about in his book, Creating Wealth, How to Retire in 10 Years or Less, we focus on simple single-family homes, real estate. Real estate is one of the most powerful wealth-producing assets that you can own. And it doesn't mean you have to have a second job. You can do real estate passively. I own my 17 properties when I walked away. Every single one of those properties were passively managed. In fact, to find them, rehab them, put a tenant in them and manage them, that was all outsourced to a team that did it for me, and I got the profits after those expenses. Other ways you can do this is by owning cash flowing businesses. Now, my favorite way to do this is combine overfunded whole life insurance policies, which I call the vault, and simple turnkey real estate combined into one unique strategy, all optimized to deliver income for you now. And the best part about that income, it's tax-free. Remember, I told you in your strike number, if you could back out your biggest expense, which is taxes, not shift your taxes to the future, you're so much closer to financial freedom. Because when your income is the goal, not net worth, not accumulation, you finally start investing with purpose. You start looking at assets based on how much income those assets are going to deliver for you, not based on what your hopeful rate of return is and your net worth is at some point in the future. Retirement, it's not a number in your bank account. It's the moment that your assets pay your bills and you own your time. When you start thinking in terms of income, everything changes. You stop asking how much do I need to save, and you start asking what asset will pay for this expense. That simple mindset shift from consumer to cash flow creator is how you build freedom. Every new stream of passive income is another piece of your life you're buying back, one step at a time. And that's when you realize the $1 million net worth, it was never the goal. Freedom is actually the goal. Now, if you want to find your strike number, we've built a tool to make it very, very simple. You can check out the links below and calculate how far away you are from retirement using the traditional methods. And then on the second page of that calculator, you can see what's possible focusing on your strike number instead. So start with your real number, not the one that Wall Street invented, then build a plan to hit it. That's what we do. We help people just like you walk away from the grind and live a life by design, not by default. So hit that subscribe button, share this with someone stuck chasing a number that doesn't matter, and remember, you don't need $1 million to be free, you just need the right number and a plan to hit it. Until next time, I'm Ryan D. Lee. Let's rise up and live free.